me welcome all of you once again. So glad that you guys are here. If you're in the room with us, we appreciate you being here. If you're joining us later online, glad that you're here. Especially those of you who might be here for the very first time. We just want to welcome you. Thank you so much for being here. It's our honor that we get to serve you in this way. And so glad that you're here with us. Hope today's awesome for you. We're actually in week 2 of a series. It's actually just a short 3-part series that we're calling the Stewardship Principle. But here's the reason that we're talking about this, why we feel like this is so important for us, is because stewardship really isn't one of those words that you hear a lot outside of church world. You know, it's just not the word that you use. I'm going to the grocery store and I'm going to steward our money well as I'm there, honey. I mean, you just don't really say that, right? And so, you don't hire stewards at your place of business. You hire managers and, those kind of people, accountants to handle your money. So we just talk about it differently. And as a result, when it gets talked about in church world, and when you hear preachers in churches talk about it, there's confusion, I think, oftentimes about the word. Oftentimes when we hear that, we just immediately kind of go to, those bad past experiences that we had where, some preacher or church just talked about stewardship in the form of, trying to get you to give to something that you didn't really care anything about. I mean, that's kind of how we tend to view it. And the thing is, what I want you to know, what we said last week, is that there's really that's really not it. It's not really about just giving your money to things. We said this, it's actually way worse. It's actually so much worse than that, because stewardship isn't just about your bank account. Stewardship really has to do with everything. Stewardship, we said this last week, is that God owns everything. This is the understanding here, the foundation, and that we're just managers acting on His behalf. It's the idea, and as Christians, we should understand that God has it all, that it's all His anyway, that He created it, that He purposed it, that He put it together, that He made it, that He gave you and I our abilities and our talents and our resources, and that all of the time and the money and the wealth and the influence and the authority, all of those things that we have at our disposal is actually not ours, that it was given to us and entrusted to us and to our care by a Heavenly Father. And that the expectation is that we would manage it well, because it's not ours. Have you ever given something or allowed somebody to borrow something and there is an expectation that they treat it well? This is not yours, this is mine, and so I'm letting you borrow it. Now I want you to manage it well. Or we're not going to let you borrow it. That's kind of how we're thinking. And so that's, the school trusts us to come in here and to use their facilities well. And so we try to go above and beyond and leave things better than when we left. If we break something, we fix it. We treat it even better than if it was our own. That's what we try to do. And that's what a steward does. And yet we get it confused sometimes, because we think, well, I don't have anything to offer. Well, I don't have any wealth, or, you don't have to worry about me. I guess stewardship, it really isn't for me, because, well, I don't really have anything anyway. I'm not real smart, not real talented, don't have any influence, and don't have any money. So, how does this apply to me? What we said last week, though, is that this is true. We've all been given some amount of opportunity, some amount of resources, some amount of ability, some amount of influence, some amount of talent and abilities, but the same amount of responsibility. We've all got a little something, whether it's a lot or it's a little, but we've all been given the exact same amount of responsibility, and that is to use all of those things, not for our benefit, but for His. On His behalf. Why? Because it's not ours to begin with. And the Christian should understand that. We shouldn't be scared when we hear the word stewardship. This should conjure up feelings of thankfulness and appreciation for what has been placed into our hands, that God would trust us with what we do have. So that's really what stewardship is, because we all have the same amount of responsibility. And so we left everybody with this question last week then. So what will you do with what's been given to you? What are you going to do with it then? What will you do with what has been placed into your hands? What will you do with those resources? Regardless of how much it is or how important you think it is, what will you do? And so that's kind of the foundation. And since we've got the foundation, now this week and next week, I want us, since we all get it now, we know what stewardship really is, now I want to take this and apply it specifically to the context of our personal finances. And there's a couple of reasons that I think this is so important. And it's not because, I'm doing some kind of setup because I want you to give. It's so much bigger than that. And Jesus made that very clear. A couple of reasons. One is because I think it's very difficult to apply, even for Christians. If you've been a Christian, it doesn't matter how long, you realize that it's just really hard to steward everything well. There is some area, especially oftentimes in the area of our stuff, our finances, our resources, our wealth, our future, our retirement, our 401k. It's hard to just leave that in God's hands and to really relinquish full control. It's hard. So it's always important for us to talk about. Then it just has a lot of emotion attached to it, doesn't it? I mean, just the fact that we're sitting in here and I said the word money or finances in church causes some of you to get the sweats, It's like, oh no, here he goes again. He's going to talk about money. Just makes me really nervous, and we start, shifting a little bit in our seats, or at least internally, and we're thinking, is there something maybe I've got to go to the bathroom. Maybe, do I hear my kids? Maybe I should go check on my kids. Honey, do you hear something? I feel like we should, my palms are sweating. I need to go check on the kids. Baby, we don't have any kids. We just get a little nervous sometimes when we talk about this. I get that. I mean, that's legitimate. But sometimes we just get flat out, we skip over nervous and we just get angry. And rightly so. For some of us, we've had some really bad experiences in the past when it comes to preachers and money and church stuff. We just get mad. It makes us angry. We're thinking, this is the problem. I don't want, matter of fact, I remember that guy who sent me a bill in the mail telling me what I owed the church. And I'm just done with this thing. And here he goes again. I'm sure this is just like the long way around. There's going to be a catch in here somewhere. He's really just trying to get my money. Here we go again. And then some of us, especially for those of us who are Christians, oftentimes the emotion is just guilt. We just feel a little guilty. It's like, oh, personal finances, I haven't really done anything since the last time he talked about this, and I felt pretty bad then. Now I'm really feeling bad because I knew what to do and I've kind of thought about doing it, and I got about 4 days and then I just realized, I just can't do it. I don't really have much anyway. And my personal finances, I want to be generous and I want to give more and I want to do, but I just can't. I'm so locked in. I just, our personal finances won't allow it. And so here's the thing. All of those feelings all of those feelings are legitimate, but it causes a lot of misunderstanding. When you feel that way, it causes us to misunderstand God's intention when it comes to our stuff. Because we think, well, he's just trying to get something. Or we think, oh, well, if I don't do enough, then I'm not good with him. And so we feel guilty, or we just get mad. And because we base everything kind of on past experience. All legitimate, all understandable. But it causes a misunderstanding, and we kind of make decisions based on misinformation. And we don't make good decisions when it comes to it because we think, well, I'll just avoid it altogether. Well, I don't have enough, and so I can't do it. And so we're always thinking in terms of like, well, I've got to have so much in order to be able to do more, and I've got, and so therefore things aren't good. But for the Christian, it just shouldn't feel this way. For the Christian, it should, what it should do? When we talk about stewardship for a believer who believes that God made everything and that he's simply giving us what we do have for our not just for our benefit, but for us to use and to steward well for him, it should cause us to have a little bit of excitement. It should cause us to want to be extravagantly generous. It should cause us to want to be cheerful givers. It should actually lower stress when we talk about stewardship in the realm of finances. It should actually, It should actually make relationships better, not worse. Did you know that? Because Christian stewardship, biblical stewardship, you understand that it's not yours anyway. And so it just relieves the pressure. It takes the pressure off and says, well, this really isn't for me anyway. Everything is for him. It was given to me from my Creator, and therefore now it's to be given back to Him. I can live that way. You see, we actually kind of get uptight because we lose sight of the reality that God really doesn't want anything from you. He really does want something for you. And that's something you may have heard before because it's kind of a tweetable statement. It's like, that's cute, from and for, I get that. But this is the reality. You know how I know this is true? Because I know that God sent His Son into the world not in order to get something from you. It doesn't read, well, for God so loved the world that He sent His Son in order to collect what He wanted from you. That's not what it says. It says, for God so loved the world that He what? That He gave. He loved you so much that He gave His only Son to you and me. There isn't an expectation that there's something we've got to earn or that we're not, it's not enough or we're not doing, because it's not about enough, it's about all. That's why I said it's way worse than that. It's not, am I hitting the right amount? Am I giving a right percentage? Am I stewarding things, rightly up to a certain line and then the rest is kind of for me? It's, are we giving it all? Have we let go of all of it? Because that's ultimately what matters. And then I know that there's still, even if I can, if I'm able to relieve some of those, relieve some of the, the anxiety and the stress about the idea. It's like, okay, so keep talking. There's still some pushback in there that kind of tells us, and I'm sure there's somebody out there that's thinking, I just think this stuff is like got to stay separated. It's kind of like God and politics. You don't talk about them in the same room. Like they just should stay separate. And when it comes to my money, we've got God and Jesus and church stuff over here in this little box, and then when it comes to my money, this is just my money. Like this is my stuff. Don't really mess with me. Here's the thing though. This is what we need to understand. You can't do that. You cannot separate your relationship with God from your personal finances. You just can't. The Bible just says way too much. God said way too much about our stuff to think that we can just separate it somehow from a relationship with Him. It's impossible to do. You can't separate what has already been put together. And here's the thing. You've probably already done it yourself. It's like, no. I just don't mix those things. They just don't, that's like oil and water. They just don't go together. But if you've ever even whispered a prayer at any point in your life that when that deal, you were hoping that deal would go through, or God, we just want to, if you'll just help us sell our house, or my goodness, like, I just need that we need that promotion. If you've ever even whispered a prayer, you've already done it. You've crossed the line. You've stepped into the zone of involving God in your personal finances. And here's what we've got to understand today. If you're going to stay in sync with God in a personal relationship with your Heavenly Father, then we have to be in sync with what His Word says about our money, our stuff, our finances, and the things that have been entrusted to us. They've got to be together. So then, how do we do this, and why does it matter so much? Well, Jesus thankfully gave us a lot of really good insight into it. He talked a lot about money. And you've probably heard that before. I know, He talked more about money than He did about love. Like, I've heard all about that. But here's the thing. Because we forget, Jesus wasn't just talking about money because He was trying to get something from you. Matter of fact, as far as I can tell, as far as, when I read Scripture, there's not a time in His ministry, at least not that's recorded, where Jesus actually asked money from somebody. Did you know that? You can go check me on that one. Matter of fact, when Jesus talks about money, the majority of the time in finances, it's really about how to handle it well, how to steward it, how to manage what you are given. That's really how He talks about it. It's not about how much or how little. He's just saying, I need you to know how to manage it. I need you to know what to do with it, because it matters. He wasn't concerned about trying to get something from you. Hey, it's laughable and ridiculous to think that Jesus could possibly think that He needs or wants our money. Seriously. He's not waiting on you to go, well, I guess we could start doing 1% or so. I guess He's not waiting on you. If He wanted it, He could get it. You know what I'm saying? He's not waiting on you to, oh, please. Oh, good, they're going to do a little bit. Thank you so much. That's not what he's waiting on. He's thinking, it's all mine anyway. I'm just waiting on you to figure that out. And here's why he talks about it so importantly. Because it's not a matter of our money, really. It's really a matter of our heart. It's really a heart issue. It's really about a control thing and kind of who owns you. And that's the way he talks about it. He just wants to know that he has you, not your stuff. He's not worried about your stuff. Here's why he talks about it that way. And you've heard this before. He says, do not store up. This is in Matthew chapter 6, and Jesus is talking to a crowd of people. And what's really interesting is you've got to remember that the majority of the people that Jesus was talking to in just about every instance were not the wealthy and the affluent. These were people on the far other end of the economic and financial spectrum, if you know what I mean. So these were people who, like you, hear words like this, and it's like, makes us a little emotional. It makes us a little nervous and scared. It's like, what's he going to say? What's he going to say? Those are the people he's talking to. And yet he still says these things. So it must be important. It must go beyond a wealth thing. There's something more to it. These were people who didn't have a lot. Do not store up treasures for yourself on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. To which I imagine the people were thinking, like probably you are, it's like, well, this doesn't apply to me. Store up treasures on earth. I got no treasures, right? Like, I have nothing. Like, so I'm just trying to keep my kids fed and keep my job. I'm just making sure that I've got a paycheck at the end of the month. Oh my goodness, store up treasures in heaven. This guy's hilarious. Did you hear him, honey? Is he serious? Saying that's not the issue. The issue isn't whether you have a lot or a little to store up. He's just saying, I don't want what you value most to be your stuff. I don't want you to place everything, all of your hopes and your dreams and what you can accumulate and your ability to produce an income and to put things together and to grow your wealth in your 401k. That's not, and to move up the ladder. That's not what I want you to be completely and totally focused on. That's not what matters. And so he continues. He's beginning to make his point. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. I want you to be more worried about what's happening later, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. And then he gives us the real point here. And them. Like, this is what he really wanted to say. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Probably a pretty familiar statement. You've heard that before. This whole passage is very familiar because we talk about it all the time, but I think we just feel guilty when we read it, and so we kind of want to avoid it because we don't really fully understand what he's saying. So I guess he just wants me to live in rags and, doesn't want me to have stuff and have any fun and, and have a secure future, and my kids are just going to starve, and it's like, I guess. He's like, no, you're missing the point. The point is that I'm not worried about your treasure. I just don't want you to worry so much about your treasure. Why? Because where it is, in other words, where you place your value, guess what else is there? All of your attention, your heart. And he said, I'm not worried about your stuff. I just want your heart. He's saying where your treasure is, there your heart will be. And your heart tends to float and drift towards your treasure, towards your stuff. That's what tends to happen. He's just saying there's a tendency for our heart to drift in the direction of our things. Why? Well, because they're tangible. Because those are the things we strive for. It's our ability, because we have the ability to. And so we think, well, since I can, I should. I have the ability to produce an income. I have the ability to create and make wealth and to grow that, and I have the ability to go do things with my hands and to move on up kind of the ladder and make a career for myself. I have the ability to, and so we have a tendency to begin to lean in the direction of trusting in that in those things. Our heart drifts in that direction, and Jesus is saying, I'm not really concerned about your wealth and your stuff. I'm just concerned about your heart. I'm not worried about taking your stuff. I just don't want your stuff to take you. I want your heart. I want you. Well, why is that? Why does he focus on this? Well, it's because the reason I'm saying this is because no one can have two masters. That's the reason I'm saying it. No one can have two masters. Next verse. There it is. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to one and despise the other. He's just making the point. We looked at this a little over a year ago, and we just made the point, what we all know, because it's kind of obvious, like, okay, I get that. Like, I can't really serve like two bosses, because at some point they're going to compete, and I'm going to have to, devote myself to one or the other. It just doesn't work. You can't play for two teams, and then when those two teams play, it's hard to be all-time quarterback. Did you ever have to do that? It was hard to be all-time quarterback because you were kind of pulling for one team. It was like, I kind of going for the underdogs here. I want the 7-year-olds to win rather than the 10-year-olds, because they're the underdogs. And so I'm gonna make sure that I throw it to them, and I'm gonna punt somebody that tackles them. You just, it's hard to serve. And he's just saying that's really the issue. You can't serve two masters. And what's interesting is that word master shows up more than 700 times. We said this last year. More than 700 times throughout the New Testament. More than 600 of those instances are actually translated Lord or owner, not master. Lord or owner. And the majority of those 600 instances are actually in reference to Jesus. Now, the Christian really is familiar with that Lord language, right? Because we talk about it all the time. Well, Jesus is my Lord and my Savior. He's the Lord of my life. I am giving my life to you. That's what we say. Lord, I'm a sinner. I need a Savior. And so I want to make you the Lord. What are we saying? I want to make you the master of my life. I want you to be the owner of my life. I want you to take back what has already been given to me. I want you to be my Lord. I want you to call the shots. I want you to lead the way. I want you to guide me in the direction that I go, including 100% in the area of my finances. I want you to have it. Well, why is that? Why does he want that? Well, because you can't serve both God and money. You just can't do both. It's like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. I don't have enough money to serve it. I don't serve money. Like, what? We try to picture, what does that even look like? I mean, I don't serve my money. I mean, my money serves me. Like, I make money and, in order to make it do what I want it to do. And he said, well, what do you value most? What do you spend your time worrying about and thinking about? Because what you worry the most about and what you value the most is probably where your heart is, and that's really what he wants. Here's the thing. I mean, it's like, yeah, I don't serve money, but, and I don't love money, but, I like it, like it's useful, but I don't serve it. But isn't this true? Like if you were to look at me and you want to know, who I serve, let me just tell you, don't judge me based on the fact that I stand up here every week with a microphone and I preach on Sunday mornings. Don't give me that much credit for, when I'm in this environment. I mean, I appreciate that and all, but it's like, oh, he is such a godly man. He's got like his Bible open and, he talks about scripture and stuff. Like, don't give me that much credit. You want to know what I value. You want to know where my heart is. You want to know what I serve. Take a look at my bank account. Take a look at our credit card statements. If you want to know what I value and what I serve, you might wonder when you took a look at those things. It's like, well, I'm not really sure anymore. That's ultimately a reflection of what we serve. And so Jesus is just making the point. You can't do both. So at some point, especially for Christians, we've got to understand this, that it's about relinquishing control. It's about surrendering control, and not a little bit. It's like all of it. We've just got to give it back. Why? Because he wants your heart, and your heart tends to drift towards your stuff. It moves in that direction, and Jesus is saying, I don't want that to happen, and I don't want to compete with your stuff. You can't have two lords. We get that. You can't have both. It's not, well, money is my Lord, and, I have to serve it because I'm in debt, up to my eyeballs, and so I can't help it, but I also want to serve Jesus. It's like, it doesn't really work that way. You can't have two masters. You can't have two lords. Because you end up being devoted to one, and you'll ultimately despise the other. And Jesus is saying, I don't want to compete. I don't want to compete with your stuff. I don't need your stuff. I don't want your stuff. I want you. And so I don't want to compete with your stuff. So that's why I need you to surrender it to me. Let go. And then he tells us how to do this. Because then he says, therefore, I tell you, don't worry. You want to know how to do this? You want to know how to learn to be a steward in the realm of your finances? How to begin to say, well, I can't have two lords. I can't have two masters. Here's how I'm going to do it. Don't worry about your life. Don't stress about it so much. What you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Saying, let go. Don't worry about it so much. You're stressing about the wrong things. You want to know how to do this, how to begin to steward well in the area of finances? Quit worrying so much about your life. Well, it's like, I don't know how to do that. He's just saying, here's what I'm saying. Don't make your life the purpose of your life. Don't make your life the primary purpose of your life. Living for your own pleasure, for yourself, for trying to get, all your ducks in a row. It's like one day, once I'm, everything, I'm not so strapped, and I want those things for you. I want you to not be strapped and to have financial peace. But you don't have to wait on that in order to stop worrying so much about your life. I want to give you those things anyway. Don't you know that? And he gives all of these, it gives a couple of illustrations of how God provides for everything anyway. So why in the world would you think he would do any less for you? Said, after all, the pagans run after all those things. When you didn't, the pagan is just anybody who doesn't worship Jesus, worship something else, money or finances or something else is their Lord and their master. That's what pagans do. They run after all those things. They stress about all those things. They worry about all those things. You don't. I don't want you to do that. Because after all, your Heavenly Father knows that you need them anyway. Don't you know, Christians, that you've already placed your trust and your relationship in God's hands? And so I don't need to worry about it anyway, because he already knows. We're not telling him something he doesn't know, and we say, well, God, I just, things aren't going real well right now, and, I just don't know that our ends are going to meet. And so it's like, he knows that. He knows that you need to be taken care of. He's aware of those things. He's going to do those things. But ultimately, those things become a distraction and a barrier when they become our primary focus rather than our relationship with God. He's saying, don't do that. Let that go. Surrender it to me. And I mean all of it. It doesn't mean go and, get naked, sell everything you got and give it to the church. That's not what he's saying. By the way, please don't do that. He's just saying, quit valuing it more than me, because ultimately what you value is what you serve. And you can't serve more than one thing. So then he gives us kind of the bottom line. Here's how you're going to do that. So instead, seek first. It's like, well, I've heard this before. I already know that. Check that one off the list. I know all about that. How hard is this to apply, though? Easier said than done. So seek first. You want to know how to do this? Seek first my kingdom, my righteousness, and everything else I'm going to give you as well. This is about priority, isn't it? If you'll just prioritize me. And here's the thing. It's not about priority in the sense of, well, I've got to get up a little bit early and give God 15 minutes of my day, and that way I put him first. He's saying, no. I'm saying, invite me in 100% into every part of your life. That's what priority means. It's not about like a list and God's at the top. It's like you have a list and God is involved in all of it. That's priority. That's what it means to seek first. It doesn't mean seek first like in the morning. I mean, I think we totally, misconstrue that. It's seek me, value me, long for me, go after me, relinquish control of in every arena of your life. Let it go and let me be a part of it. Prioritize me rather than you, and I'm going to do everything else in addition to that. I promise I'll take care of the rest, because there's going to be freedom. There's going to be peace. There's going to be a sense of joy. Relationships will begin to grow and be healthy again, because you've said, enough about me. I want to give you my heart. By doing that, it's letting go of everything else too. You see, stewardship ultimately is about trust. I mean, if we have to go back, like the bulk of that passage, it's not about your stuff. It's not about your money. It's not about your 401k. It's not about, how much you have, or whether you've got a little or whether you got a lot, or what kind of lifestyle you're supposed to have. That's really not what Jesus is talking about there. It's really about trust. I just want you to trust me. I want you to believe in me. I want you to give me everything you got. I want you to rest in me. I don't want you to trust in your money, because your money will fail. And ultimately, when you get to the end of your life, it's not there for you anyway, is it? You leave it all behind anyway. Why not let him have it now and watch what he can do through you and in your life now? Don't wait to the end of your life for it to pry, death to pry all of your stuff out of your cold dead fingers. Why not just be open-handed with it now and say, God, this is yours anyway. Thank you for blessing me with it, but I'm going to return it to you. I'm surrendering it to you. Doesn't mean literally going and selling everything. That, the story of the rich young ruler, we get that confused sometimes. It's like, so that's what I'm supposed to do? Go sell everything and give my money to the poor? No. He's just saying, it's a hard issue. I want you to be willing to do that, if I asked you to, because I'm going to take care of you anyway. I want your heart. I want you to trust me, because ultimately who you trust is who you serve. And I want you serving me. Who you trust is who you serve. It's who has become your Lord and your master. And some of us have, unfortunately, continued to trust in our ability to earn an income and to get a job and to, get a better job and to get a promotion and to own a bit. Like we've kind of rested in that. And so we think, well, I can't do the church thing, or I can't give right now, or I'm strapped because I don't have enough right now, or I can't do, or you just don't understand. And it's like, I know. That's kind of the point. You are now serving your master, and your stuff is your master. Jesus just doesn't want that for you. He wants you to trust him, because he wants you to serve him, because who you serve becomes your Lord. Who you serve becomes your Lord. And he wants to be your Lord. And if you're a Christian, then that's a critical question for you to ask. Because at some point in the past, if you're a Christian, you prayed a prayer and you said, I want to make you the Lord of my life. I want to relinquish control. I want to get... But we didn't realize that kind of in our back pocket was like all of our stuff, our possessions, our finances, our ability to control and to manage our own future by what we do and how much we earn and how much we've stockpiled. We kind of keep that control to ourselves. And so at some point along the way, we've tried to manage two masters, and we realize that it can't work. And so the question that we've got to be willing to ask ourselves, Christians, is who do you trust? Is it you or your Savior? Which box earns the check mark today? Is it you and your own ability, your own ingenuity, your money, your income, or your lack of it, but your desire for it, your need for more? having a couple of storage buildings and extra building and an attic and a basement, and it's full of extra stuff, and you've got corners, and yet you're strapped and you don't really know what to do, and you're not able to give and to be generous when you want to. And it's like those moments, kind of like that Christmas offering. It's like, I really want to, I want to participate, but I can't. And yet you've got all this extra stuff, and you don't really know what to do. And it's like, so ask yourself the question: who are you serving? What do you ultimately put your trust in? Who do you put your trust in? You, or perhaps your Savior, the one who has already offered you something that you couldn't do yourself, and then has asked for nothing in return. He's offered you his own life, and you received it free of charge. Gracious gift. And he wants you to have it. But the question is, do you really trust him? Because who you trust is who you serve, and who you serve is your Lord. Is he your Lord today? Because when we begin to steward in that way our stuff, and we begin to surrender it and to let go of it, he will take you to places that you never dreamed possible. Not about having a couple of houses and a couple of... He will give you a peace and a joy and a contentment that you never thought possible, right where you are. That's what begins to happen when you begin to serve him and not your stuff. And then for those of you who aren't Christians in here, maybe you're just kind of riding that fence. This is one of those hang-ups for you. This is one of those issues. I want to ask you the same question. Who do you trust? Is it you and your own potential to secure your future? Or is it a heavenly Father who loves you, who cares for you, who died for you, and who is inviting you into a relationship with him, inviting you to trust in him, inviting you to let go of everything and to give him the reins, because he wants to provide richly and to take care of everything? I think that's somebody worth trusting. A heavenly Father like that. I'm going to give you an opportunity to express that today. Would you bow your heads with me? And I just want to lead you in a few words. And again, it's not about praying words out loud or even in your heart. It's simply about a declaration of what's actually true for you. And if it's true for you that you want to say, I need to let go, and I want to put my trust and my hope and my future in the hands of my Heavenly Father. If that's you, then just make these declarations and these statements. Just say, Jesus, thank you for inviting me into a relationship, providing a way to know a Heavenly Father. I put my trust in you. I'm relinquishing control. I'm letting go. I need wisdom as to know how to do that, but I especially need the courage to actually do it. I want to let go. I want to give you the reins, because I am a broken, messed up sinner. And I need my Savior. I want to trust you because I want to serve you, because I want you to be my Lord. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.